Yes, people, what's going on, everyone? It's Mike back again, and this is literally just a little video talking about the other teams that are in and around us. I've tried to do this a few times. Let's get the camera on. I've tried to do this a few times. Just talk about some of the fixtures that they've got, some of the aggression that Everton are going to need to show in the next few games. But most importantly, I think what we're going to need to see is we're going to need to see heart. You know, this Everton team, we go into games against Manchester City. We're not going to be straight. I'm not expecting anything from that game. But I'm also not expecting us to get absolutely pegged. I'm expecting us to put in a solid performance, be aggressive where we need to be strong on the ball. We're not going to have loads of the ball, but when we've got it, utilise it. And we showed that against Brighton. We showed that we can play with 25% possession, but we could score 5 goals. You know, we really did demonstrate some good football, some direct passing. I mean, nothing highlights it more than on the 93rd or 4th minute, Anana picks up the ball in the middle of the park. He plays a lovely cutting ball, and McNeil runs onto it and smashes it home for 5-1. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be that open and that easy against Manchester City. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that there's teams around us, like Leicester, for example, who've got a difficult fixture, like Leeds, like Forest. All of these other teams have all got difficult fixtures. And, you know, that big win for Everton, that game that I didn't expect us to win, that's really, really helped us. And that could be, in my opinion, that could be the 3 points that keeps us up. It could be the 3 points that keeps it up. And, you know, there were certain performances. I've spoken a lot about being positive and, you know, no matter what the result is, just backing the boys and doing it again and doing it again and doing it again. And, you know, one of the big things that stood out for me was that this team is growing. They are growing. They are thinking of ways to win games. They are being confident when they're on the ball, and you know, they're going to places and getting results that actually a few weeks ago I wouldn't have backed us for. You know, if you sit here and tell me that Everton would lose 3-1 to Fulham, but they then go to Palace, get a draw, they would go to Leicester, get a point, they would smash Brighton 5-1, I wouldn't have believed you. I wouldn't have believed you. You know, they played a difficult Newcastle game in the middle, granted, fair enough, but this Everton team have turned up. They've turned up and they've turned a corner, you know, and it's almost like the team that started the weekend sort of really did what I wanted. You know, I said in my match preview, I'd have been tempted to start Damari Gray because of his pace getting in behind, and I would have. I still would have. Man City's a different game. I wouldn't start Damari Gray in this game, but I tell you who I would start. I would keep the team as it was. I thought Yuri Mina was immense by the one mistake. I thought Pickford was fantastic. I thought even you know, Mikalenko had a good game. Obviously, this is a different test against Manchester City, but going backwards, he tends to be all right. He's going forwards, I always think, ugh. But he seems all right. James Garner's a footballer. You can clearly see that. So we look all right. We look like we're solid. Obviously, we're playing Manchester City, but we probably only need 2 more points to stay up. When you look at the Leeds games they've got, when you look at what Leeds have got, when you look at what Forest have got, when you look at what Leicester have got, Everton probably we might even only need a point. But if we need 2 points, I'm confident we can get them. You know, whether that be a draw at Wolves and a draw at home to Bournemouth, whether it be a win at either of those, I'm confident we'll get it. So as long as Everton don't get absolutely smashed by City, I'm confident we can do that. And some of the standouts yesterday, some of the players, they showed heart. I mean, you know, there was moments where I thought, they got down the side of Patterson. I thought, we could be in trouble here. But he recovered. You know, the centre half stepped over. Garner stepped over. I just thought it was a well-packed, you know, polished performance. Iwobi looked like he did at the start of the season, if I'm being honest. You know, more on the front foot. You know, less having to go backwards, less thinking. You know, less of this balls across the midfield where we're conceding silly goals. None of that. It was very much a case of we were on the front foot, and when I looked at that performance yesterday and I analysed it and I did the match reaction and you watch the game, you know, you want to watch it again to sort of talk about some of the things that you miss. And the things that we miss was how we utilised Lewin. You know, whether it be in the air, whether it be into his feet. You know, there was turns. He was giving himself a yard, maybe two off a defender so he could get in behind and use his pace. You know, we ran Brighton off the park. And I'm not saying that in terms of we ran more miles than them, or we did more passes than them, or any of that. But what we did is we ran them ragged. You know, we expanded. We made sure we got the ball. We were direct down the channels. And Brighton just couldn't handle that. And that was exactly the way to set up against Brighton. We know it's different against City. You know, we saw Leeds give it a fantastic go, to be fair to them. First game under Allardyce, we saw them giving it a good go. They lose 2-1. I mean, there's a moment at the end of that game. I can't remember the player it is. It might be, what's his name? Is it Somerville? I think it's Somerville for them. And there's a ball that I think he can play into Rodrigo and he gets it wrong. He gets it wrong. But what that showed is that we can get at City. So I want these players to go there, or to go to Goodison, with the atmosphere, the crowd, the aggression, and put on a performance. And I'm not sitting here saying Everton are going to win the game. I'm not even saying they're going to get a point, but I'm saying they're not going to get played off the park, because it's not going to be the same as it was against Fulham or Newcastle, because it can't be. It can't be that bad. It can't be confidence busting after going to Brighton and dicking them. It's really, really key. Really, really key. And for me, for the first 20 minutes, I'll probably actually sit back. I let them have the ball in their half, and then we pinch. So what I'm saying is you have 2 or 3 players that go and attack the ball, and then you hit them on the counter as a result. That's exactly what I would do against City, which was a similar tactic we did against Brighton. The only thing I would argue with the Brighton game is we were aggressive further up the park. You know, the first goal, we win it on the halfway line. It comes back to us, ball down the channel for Lewin, across the box. Decore makes a run in front of the defender, smashes it home. It's not actually a good finish. It's sort of weird, but it goes in. You know, the second goal, we get down the left-hand side, swing the ball over the top. Decore's unmarked. You know, we've got to be honest and be able to say, this Man City team is different. They're better. They're obviously playing right now in the Champions League, if I'm not mistaken. But Everton have got to work out how to get some form of result. That doesn't have to be 3 points. It doesn't. I mean, honestly, I truly believe we only need 1 point, maybe 2, because I can't see Leeds getting another result. They've got Spurs on the last game of the season at Elland Road, and that could be the one. I can't see them getting anything this weekend. I think they've got West Ham away, and that is an other game that they could get a result in. But they've not been good enough to win games. So I don't think they win the last 2. But then you've also got Forest and Leicester. Leicester are gone for me. They're gone. They're done.
Leicester City Football Club is an English professional football
Brilliant.
club based
Alexa,
in
stop. There you go. Leicester Football Club. I think Leicester are gone. And then it really is a toss-up between us, Forest and Leeds. And all of us have got a difficult fixture this weekend. All of us. It wouldn't surprise me if all 3 of those teams don't pick up a point this weekend. But if you do, just like we proved against Brighton, if you do, you get dragged out of the mess. If Everton could get a point going into the last 2 games of the season on 33 points, with the fact that the last game of the season is at Goodison, I think we stay up. And I'll sit here and say that, you know, I worked it out mathematically before, and I said we'd finish up on goal difference. And now I think due to that Brighton result, we stay up by 2 points. It could even be 3. So, look, that's where I am. It's just a little jump in, talk about a few things. You know, there's all this rumours around investment at Everton and the stadium. I'm parking all of that. I'll talk about all of that in the summer. I want to get this season out of the way. I want to support the boys. And I want to get us over the line. I want us to be a Premier League team. We need to be a Premier League team. You know, there's a big, massive job this summer. And, you know, we spoke a little bit about financial fair play and, you know, what the ramifications are if Everton are found to be, you know, guilty. And this is how much that annoys me. Like, can he talk about it? I truly think that if something comes out of it, it needs to either be instantly, like now, or at the end of the season when the season's done and it affects next season, because it's not fair to drag this on while it's looming over our head. These things can go on for years. You're going to have clubs complaining and all sorts, and I get it, I do understand that, but you're going to have clubs complaining and arguing and moaning about the fact that Everton have got away with it or whatever rubbish you're going to talk about. Simple fact is, Everton have just got to stay in the league. And if it's by 6 points, that would be marvellous. Because if that was the case, then we ain't got to worry about any of this if we've got a 6 point ban, have we? So, for me, win Wolves, win Bournemouth, you're on 38 points. I don't think Leeds or Leicester finish on 38 points. I don't think they come close. Now, I want to give a little shout out to, well, there's a few YouTubers that support those teams who I adore. Like, you know, certainly Connor, one Leeds, he's a friend. Like, he isn't a YouTuber, he's a friend. And I don't really want Leeds to go down as a result because, you know, your personal relationships and whatever, but he is a friend and I am worried about Leeds. I think they're going down. You've got Joe, who's been on the channel before. He's a good lad, makes great content. It will be a shame the Premier League to lose these guys, but it is what it is. You've got Leicester, Chappie's hilarious. If you watch Beat the Drop, you'll see how funny he is, the banter that we all have with him, etc. He looks like Jamie Vardy. It will be a shame to lose those guys. But the biggest thing, most important thing is, of course, it's not sentiment. It's Everton have to be a Premier League team. So it's tough to see people in this position, and I'm sure they say the same thing about me. But you know, if it was on the other foot, they'd want me going down. But I think Leicester are done. I think they're in real trouble. You know, there'll be Leicester fans that watch this channel, and you know, I have nothing against any football fan of any team, to be honest. You know, I know there's this weird rivalry with like Newcastle, and obviously there's a rivalry with Liverpool for obvious reasons, and you know, whatever. But on an individual, personal basis, I have no issue with anyone unless they have an issue with me and they comment and they're nasty and whatever. I think Leicester are in real trouble, like deep trouble, because they've got so many good players, and they should not be where they are. I mean, if you look at their back four, you know, I think they've still got Ricardo. They've got Belgium left back in Castagna. They've got the Freeze, the centre half. Soyuncu, up until last season, looked like an absolute rock. Then they've got Tielemans and Maddison in the middle, with like Dennis Pratt and Harvey Barnes. These are all Premier League players, by the way, people. Like, these are literally all Premier League players. You'd even argue that Iheanacho gets into probably a bottom 8 Premier League team. These are all Premier League players. It's just gone horribly, horribly wrong at Leicester, and you know, I think they were pointing at investment from the ownership, etc. And you can't really comment on that really from an outside perspective, because it was so devastating what happened to Leicester. What was it, 3 or 4 years ago? Being someone that has, you know, friends in Leicester and fairly local to Leicester, I know it hurt the area. I know it hurt the city. I know it hurt a lot of people. You know, in my job, I'd go and travel to Leicester quite a lot, and I know the pain that people experienced. I think when you lose people like your Schmeichels, for example, and your Wes Morgans, it's not necessarily about their playing ability. It's about the effect it has in the dressing room, and I think it's killed them. I think it's killed them. Not necessarily Wes Morgan, but I think Schmeichel was probably a big miss. Vardy's had his injuries. He hasn't been anywhere near what he was 2-3 years ago when he was absolutely fantastic. And obviously the season they won the league, whenever was that, 6 years ago, they were unbelievable. I don't think they're there. And then you've got Leeds, who have fantastic players, but it's really weird how they've all not gelled, you know, and it's a massive job for Sam Allardyce. They pulled the trigger really late on that. But you worry about it, because I've saw the stats under Sam Allardyce. I've saw what happened to Everton. Everton were 20th for shots on target, 20th for goals, 20th for, you know, all of this metrics was all under Sam Allardyce. And to be honest, I'm not going to sit here and say Sam did a bad job, because we didn't. But he took a team that was 13th, and we finished 8th. He did a good job. He did a good job. But he did a good job with a decent group of players. I can't see Leeds getting out of it. I think it's too little too late for him. I think Rodrigo's fantastic. I think he's got real ability, certainly on his left foot. I think the wingers blow hot and cold quite a lot. Somerville, Harrison, the Willie Nonto lad, I think they all blow hot and cold. You know, Nonto's meant to be absolutely fantastic, yet in the last game he was non-existent from what I saw. I thought he was ineffective. Somerville, his passing ability clearly is lacking. And Harrison has the odd wildy and then doesn't turn up. So I think Leeds are in trouble. Middle of the park, I don't know who they're playing. They lose, I think, was it Tyler Adams? They lose Tyler Adams, who's like the engine, the workforce, the leader in there. They fall to pot. They've got Weston McKennie in there, who is no doubt a technically gifted footballer. But I just don't think he's got the brain for the Premier League. There's something going wrong. You've got Rocker, who obviously he's a good player. He was signed to Bayern Munich. He was seen as some successor to you know, go forward. Didn't quite happen for him. Clearly a footballer, not quite worked at Leeds. You know, they've got Firpo at left back. They've got an experienced Ayling. They're meant to have a fantastic young goalkeeper in Meslier. And I mean, Joel Robles, ex-Everton goalkeeper, was playing in goal for Leeds this weekend and actually did a much better job. So, yeah, I think Leeds are in trouble. And then when you look at Forest, you compare the team that they've got, and you know, they signed so many players in a period of time where you don't quite know if it gelled or not. The one thing I would say that I would worry about if I was Forest is they've gone and spent £100 million ish, and if they stay up, they've got to strengthen on that, which means they're going to have a shed load of players on big wages, on long contracts. Like, they're only just staying. It's not like these guys are staying up by 30 points and they're finishing 10th. You know, these guys are legitimately going to stay up by the scruff of their teeth after investing so much money in the playing squad that isn't really good enough. I think Forest are in deep trouble, whether it be this season or next season, because the rotation of players, I just don't see how they do it. I don't see how they do it, which means they're going to have a massive wage bill, expanded squad, and if they go down the season after, you know, that would be my comment on Beat the Drop. I'll mention this tomorrow, but I think they've got some big issues, Forest, if they stay up, because nobody's looking at that picture. And then you've got us, who have a thin squad. You know, we've had to trim the squad because of financial fair play and a lot of wages. There's going to be some big players leaving. And I mean big in terms of personality, not necessarily they've played loads of games, but Mina, when he plays, he's our best centre-half and we all know it, but he's never fit. Never fit. He'll be a massive loss in that changing room, I suspect. You know, you've got other players in there that, you know, aren't good enough to be there, but they're there on long contracts. But you're going to have a turnover of players. You know, I suspect, is it Lewis Gibson, a young lad at, I think he's at Bristol City or wherever he is, he's on loan. I suspect he'll go. I suspect you'll see Holgate go, Tom Davies go, Mina go. I think you'll also see some of the fringe players, Malpay go. I think it would not surprise me if Tamari Gray goes, because if I'm not mistaken, he's in his last year of his contract. Next season is his last year, so at the end of next summer, I'm sure he can leave. Don't hold me to that, but I think that's right. There's going to be a big rotate, that on top of the fact that Connor Cody might not sign for Everton. So you're going to have Everton having to do a rebuild. Onana might not be at the club. You know, there's a lot of teams sniffing around him. You know, some people are saying 50, 60 million. I don't see a 60 million football player there at the minute, if I'm being honest. So if you offer me 60 million, do I take it? Probably. You've got Decore, who... he's not getting any younger, but he's working his socks off. I'd probably consider giving him a year of extension, if I'm being honest. And obviously Everton need a striker. They probably need another winger. They certainly need centre-halves. They need a centre midfielder. You know, you've got all these players on loan. Dele Alli, Andre Gomez. You know, these players are playing in these other leagues and they're doing well, but Everton, they're poor. So there's going to be a massive turnaround at Everton. So when you look at the four clubs and where they are, there's issues at every club. And talking about Everton, that's without mentioning the board, by the way. You know, this new investment, the financial fair play, it's a mess. The club is a mess. So there's lots of positives to just staying up. But so much work needs to happen at all four of these football teams. And I don't want to be derogatory to any Southampton fans that are here. I think it's really important that Southampton, they give it a go. You know, they come to Everton, for example, they beat us. Ward-Prowse will be in the Premier League next season. Who he plays for, I don't know. But it wouldn't surprise me if it was Everton. It really wouldn't surprise me if Everton go, yeah, goal-scoring midfielder, can score penalties, can score free kicks, exactly what Everton lack. Go and sign him. And he's not going to cost loads of money. He's not. I'm not saying he's not a good player. I think he's a very good player, but I think a player's value goes down when they get relegated. That's the case. I think they've got Armstrong. I think he's a good player. I think you'll see Che Adams. He'll stay in the Premier League. Lavia, I think he'll stay in the Premier League. They've got a couple of wingers that have got some quality, but there's no huge standouts for me at Southampton, if I'm being honest. And I apologise if I've not named your technically best player, but I think there's a few issues. And then they're not going to come up straight away. They're not. They're going to be in the Championship for a while, and it's a shame to say. It really is a shame to say, but all of these teams are in this part of this league because it's a mess. And that's without including the teams that I expected to be in there, like Bournemouth, who have just managed to get results. You know, O'Neill's done a sensational job with a team that, I've got to be honest, I thought were finished. I thought they were finished. I think this new man at Southampton, I think he's done a good job. I think Nathan Jones is relegated. It's that simple. So if you're asking me who my bottom three is and who I expect to get relegated, it's Southampton, it's Leicester City, it's Leeds. Then I think Forest will finish 17th, and I think Everton will finish 16th. 2 places below where I predicted we would finish. But a lot less points. So, guys, look, I'm leaving it there. Thank you ever so much for tuning in, as always. I know it's a late video, but I quite like doing these late videos, to be honest. These late uploads, I think they're quite good. You watch them just before bed. Lots of traction, lots of comments. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Really, really important to me. I'm going to try and get a video done every day. I'm really trying to get on it, so... You know, I'll keep an eye on the news, I'll keep an eye on what's going on, and let's get back to making content. Let's get back to enjoying making content and not being miserable. It's amazing what a win does, you know, and that was the first win in 7, if I'm not mistaken. But we picked up a few points. We've started to turn the corner. Get Man City out the way, whatever it is. If it's a point, phenomenal. If it's 3 points, amazing. If it's nothing, don't get dicked. Go into Wolves. Go into Bournemouth, get the job done, keep Everton in the Premier League. That is my comments. Dwight McNeil. I think we're getting the player back that he was 3 years ago at Burnley when he was touted by Manchester United. He was the second highest assists. He looks sensational at the minute. So, yeah. Guys, look, I'm leaving it there. 26 minutes and 12 seconds, 13 seconds, 14 seconds. We're leaving it there. Peace.